Hello and welcome to the RoRoShow. How are you doing today?
How Rahinda, good to see you, man. Good
Good
to
to
see
see
you.
you too. Yeah, finally. I mean, I've been DMing you on Instagram for like forever. I was saying, "Oh, when can I join your, martial arts academy?" I've been so intrigued and wanting to learn, and I love your page, your Instagram page, and what you guys do, and I just want to learn more about it. Tell me, how did you get started in martial arts?
Awesome. So, how do I get started? I think I started. I was like 12 years old, 11 or 12 years old, and there was a club literally down the road from where I lived. And I don't know if it's like quite an Asian thing, but dads want their kids to learn to fight and the rest of it. So basically, my dad brought me down to the local martial arts club. My first instructor over there, Mr. Avtar Bra, and it was a version of Taekwondo that they were teaching over there, and I did that for quite a long period of time. So that was the first thing that got me in. But when I started it, I realized one, I don't know, for some reason I'm quite good at it. Maybe it was my body dynamics or like whatever, but I realized I was quite good at it. I found it interesting, and I kind of never dropped it since then. I started at what, 12, 32 now. In between that, I did a bunch of other systems. I trained at London Shoot Fighters for some time, which is a big full contact MMA club in West London. I did a couple of tournaments, and yeah, now I'm teaching it, and my students are doing tournaments. So it's like the cycle continues, and obviously I'm continuously learning as well. You're joining me in my home dojo over here,
Yeah, yeah.
so that's kind of what hooked me. Probably movies as well. Movies had a big part. My dad was brainwashing me with a lot of Bruce Lee at that time. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So, what age did you start learning?
12. It was 11 or 12.
11
I
or
think I
12.
just got like, so year 7 or 8 in high school.
Yeah, I mean, at that age, were you actually motivated, or like, was it a couple of years after that where you actually really got into it?
To be honest with you, the first lesson I was kind of like a bit, I don't really know what it's about. And most people, they're quite nervous, especially when they hear the word martial art. They think, well, they've got a preconception in their mind of people just beating the daylights out of each other, right? As like from movies and stuff. And I wasn't really that big. So I kind of went in almost a little bit scared and not knowing what was going to happen. But then it's not easy. You do kind of leave like, battered, bruised, and the rest of it. But you can get really good really quickly if you put the dedication in. And like I said, something about it and my thinking and I don't know, just who I was just linked up. There's like this heavy element of not giving up, and it wasn't even literally like the training first. It was just this element of persevering and pushing through whatever adversities put ahead of you. So I think that kind of sealed the deal.
Absolutely. And how much is it mental compared to physical? I mean, what is the is there a ratio? Like, is it a lot about willpower and discipline, or is it, are there people that are not very strong but just have this willpower to push through and this warrior spirit?
There's like you can't have the mental without the physical or the physical without the mental. So I'm not going to cop out and say it's 50-50, because it's not. It's more of like a building. So you're right that the mental is the platform, right? It's the foundation. If the foundation isn't there, the rest of it doesn't really matter. If someone is mentally focused, it manifests in the physical. So it's very rare that you get someone who's mentally focused and really driven individual, and then 3 years down the line they still, not in like, they still might not be in good shape or the rest of it. It's fine, obviously, to come in when you have no experience. And a lot of my students, when they do come in day one, they're like, I've never trained before, and they want to do it for fitness and get back into shape. But that mental drive drives them to the physical aspect. The day-to-day job is physical, so we do full contact sparring, high intensity interval training. You're sweating and screaming by the end of the class, right? So the day job is physical, but it's driven by that foundation of mental. And some people have this drive coming in and it just gets stronger, and other people, it's really strange that you say this, you pull it out of them. And when we pull it out of them in different ways, I remember a few students, you do it the hard way. So you're just pushing them in sparring, you're hitting them hard, pushing them. They feel like, their lungs are collapsing. And at that moment, you ask them, like, who do you think you are? Who are you? Tell me who you are, yeah? And something just, I can't explain it. It just like snaps. And then you have who they are, their real character underneath it all. And I don't know, I think everyone's got this like beast mode side. Some people have never flicked that switch before, though. So you just have to pull it out of them. When you realize you have it, then I don't know. You realize you're like an ocean in a drop, not a drop in an ocean, as they say.
And do you think that's necessary? Do you think everyone, man, female, they need to kind of feel that primal instinct of fighting? Do you think it's
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna always say yes to that. Like fighting for the sake of fighting, no, obviously not. But we use combat as a tool to bring that out, right? So the fierce element of combat pulls something out. It's not that you should go around in your day-to-day life acting like a crazy person, but if need be, you can flick that switch. And also, there's always good elements in everything. So out of that comes a strong, fierce competitive element, and out of that comes an ability not to want to give up and persevere, and constantly move forward. So a lot of the times when I'm teaching my students martial arts, I'm relating it to what they're doing at work or university or college or high school or whatever they're doing, just to apply it outside. It's more than kicking and punching. That kicking and punching is meant to be empowering you to in other parts of your life, ultimately.
Yeah, and how do you think it's empowered you in your life? So, I assume this is like a job that you do. You're obviously you train and you train other people, but do you have another job outside of
Yeah.
martial arts?
Yeah, I don't even like calling this a job. It's like a passion, and it's a thing for me like that. So this is my passion, and I do this, outside of what I call my day job, the one that pays the bills, right? But yeah, so in a way, the job that I do in my day is quite like a relatively senior position within a pharmaceutical company. And if I look back actually on every job interview that I've ever done, I swear 15 minutes of it is nearly always talking about martial arts. And often to a lot of people, because I'm 32 years old, but I opened this place, Uxbridge Martial Arts Academy, about 5 or 6 years ago. So I was in my 20s when I did it, and they were quite surprised that this 20-something-year-old kid has got his own business and he's got more students than maybe the company I'm applying to has employees. So um, that was quite a big deal to speak to people about. And it's not just like as a business; it's the fact that you commit to your passion. That's what I think really inspires and motivates people. So yeah, in my day life, this has definitely helped me to get there, just by, I don't know, demonstrating to people that if you're committed and you don't give up and you can push forward in a cause and kind of live out your passions.
Yeah, I mean, the question is why are you passionate about it? Do you feel like once you've learned the skill and cultivate the skill, like you need to share it and ensure that other people can actually fight and are able to defend themselves?
Yeah. So I don't know. Someone said something on the lines of what you do for yourself dies with you, and what you do for other people can live forever, right? So you pass on good things to other people, and that's kind of really the underlying reason why I think most people teach, and the reason that I became a teacher of martial arts. I mean, we're all still students in some way, shape, or form, but you get to a certain level of understanding, and you want other people to benefit from that as well. So the more people that can benefit from that, the happier I am. On the note of what do they get from it, yeah, you're right. Self-defense is definitely one thing. Times change, and sometimes things are good, sometimes they're bad. But it's kind of like saying you'd rather have this skill and never need to use it than not have this skill and need to use it that one time. So there's that. But then there's also the mental discipline that comes out of the training as well. So many times a student comes in, cocky teenager, moving around, giving me all of this and that. Sometimes what you need to do is knock them into place, adjust them slightly, and they're standing like this all of a sudden 3 lessons later. So mental discipline, so important as well.
Yeah, and that's something that I really wanted to ask you about as well. So, in terms of when obviously a lot of teenagers, young people come in, they want to train with you. Do you have a code of conduct that you say that you need to adhere to these principles? And how do you fuse the spiritual side of things? Because I mean, people are, I guess, a little bit immature in a particular way. They maybe don't understand those kind of things. So how do you sort of talk to them and let them understand these types of principles?
Well, first, the code of conduct. Generally speaking, martial artists they adhere to some principles of Bushido, the way of the warrior kind of thing. Okay, so there's certain tenets inside of that, like being humble, being benevolent, being courteous, being honest. Things that most people say make like a well-structured, well-rounded human being. So we have this as part of the way that you interact and speak to people, and it's in from day one. You call your seniors sir or ma'am, depending. You're standing in a certain position. There's actually an attention position from a traditional karate. Actually, you stand like this with your eye. You can't see from here, but your fist clenched like this when the coach is talking. So there's none of this like moving around or showing disrespect. So it becomes very regimented from the beginning. Now that's the discipline aspect. The philosophy and the spiritual side is something different, and that really, this is my personal opinion, but it comes through pain and understanding who you are, because pain can be a great motivator. So you push yourself through like really, really hard training. One of the forms of sparring we do is called kumite. This is from full contact karate. Yeah. So kumite is bare knuckle sparring. You can't punch in the face, but you can punch anywhere else, bone on bone, shin on shins, and it's absolutely full contact. You're literally going for it. And when you get to a certain boundary with that, and then you decide to continue forward, you start learning something about yourself. And for me, anything, when someone says spirituality, all it to me is an understanding of yourself, understanding who you really are when you remove all the other facades. And I'll give you an example of a conversation that I had with someone. He was an investment banker, the London Shoot Fighters, and I was quite young. I think I was like in my early 20s. So I met this guy, and I was like, "Wow, I've never met one of you in real life before." Yeah. So I was asking him loads of questions. He was doing all these like crazy full contact martial art classes, Muay Thai, kickboxing, karate, and I said to him, "So why do you do this? You must be on like £1 billion a year." It didn't compute in my naive mind. And he said to me, it stuck. He goes, "In life, you can cheat your way through anything. Yeah, especially in the working world. You may not be the best person for that job. You may not be the best person at this, but you can still get your way somewhere in different avenues by hook or by crook, right or wrong. But there's a way of doing it. But when it comes to this, and I'm talking really refining, being honest to you who you are and refining truth. If I'm sparring someone and they're stronger than me, he'll beat me. He'll knock me down. And if I'm not fast enough, I won't catch him. And if I'm not smart enough, I won't be proficient enough to break his defense. So every weakness that I have is completely exposed, and there's an even playing field over here. Forget gender or race or anything else like this. It's just two equal people, and your effort versus their effort. And inside of that comes some sort of truth for me. Like you really know who you are, and there's no lying. The winner's on the floor, and the victor's standing up.
Yeah, and do you think that humanity is missing something from not learning to fight? Do you think it's a primal instinct within us, that if we need to experience that face to face, being with pain, kind of thing?
I think there's learning in it. It becomes like a double-edged sword. So a lot of what we spend more than half the time talking about combat and things like that, but then the other half of the time saying how you should never be able to use it. Like you should be able to use your emotional intelligence to first subdue a situation. So if someone came to me and was being verbally aggressive, I wouldn't even respond verbally aggressively back to them. I'd do whatever it was to subdue the situation, and that's me like putting the situation down. Then if they continue and they forcing me to do something, I will still push back. But the moment it gets physical, like that's where there's a boundary. Okay, the second like you punch me, then I'm gonna kick you. If you kick me, I'm gonna do that's where physical conflict starts. And it gets to this point where if you don't do anything, then something worse could happen, because maybe that person, the next time he tries doing it, is on someone weaker than you who can't defend themselves. Maybe it'll be your sister or your mother or something like that. So you have an obligation at that point, yeah? But you don't go around looking for problems. And to answer your question directly, should we all learn how to fight? We should all learn how to defend ourselves, is my statement on that. Because the word fighting has a negative connotation. Kind of like, you can argue that nearly every country in the world has an army, right? You don't use it to invade other people, but rather, if you don't have it, you can't, contend. It's basically the enslavement of your people as a worst case scenario. So, like that's a similar way of understanding combat, I guess.
Mm. And what is one thing that you like that's been such a dramatic change from when you started learning martial arts? You obviously started quite young, 11, 12, and now you're over around 30 years old, and there's obviously a progression. But what has been the biggest sort of significant change that you can think of that has affected your training and abilities?
This is a really good question, and anyone who's watching, who's experienced anything in martial arts, is going to have an opinion on this. It can be controversial. it actually started with Bruce Lee, okay, in the 70s and 80s, in the 70s, sorry. And what he was trying to say was, you have, so once upon a time, and not that long ago, and still right now, you have solidified systems of combat, and there was more emphasis put on this maybe 10, 15, or even 20 years ago, before the advent of something called mixed martial arts. So there's two sort of schools of thoughts over here. You have the solidified systems where punching is maybe done this way or done this way, and blocking is done this way, or whatever. Some systems say we have a circular way of doing it. Some systems say we have a more direct locking out way of doing it. But still, it's within the confines of a system. And to me, with all due respect to all of that, there can almost be a cultish element which is developed from there, because what you're doing is you're limiting your ability. We only have 2 hands, 2 feet, 2 elbows, 2 knees, right? And what mixed martial arts did was things like, you probably heard of the UFC, right?
Yeah.
Ultimate Fighting Championship. Yeah, they're massive. They're huge. They're multi-billion pound right now. But they didn't start off that big. And in the beginning, when the UFC came out, what they wanted to do was remove a lot of like the nonsense and hoo-ha from traditional martial arts, because there was some things people were doing, and like it was questionable why they were doing these funny like type of things where there's no application. And in the beginning, there were some people that got really badly beat down who were doing all sorts of funny like. I think there's some place for this, but overly esoteric kind of things, and it was just considered like, people just fraud basically. So the biggest change that happened to me in my sort of history in martial arts was being exposed to other systems and just taking the best from everything. Right now, UMAA, Uxbridge Martial Arts Academy, we teach stand-up mixed martial arts. Okay, so it's a mixture of things like kickboxing, Muay Thai, Kyokushin Karate, Taekwondo. All this is all mixed up because you take the best of all worlds. You can't, punch stronger than a boxer, yeah. But the conditioning of a person from traditional karate is like solid. Muay Thai, those guys kick absolutely. Their knee strikes and elbows are amazing. So you take what's best out of everything. And studying mixed martial arts opened my mind to that. Not that there's anything wrong with traditional. I still do some traditional forms. But if you only think within that, you become very insular and you remove all of the knowledge in the rest of the world.
Yeah, so it sounds like you have to be quite creative and be able to look at different types of fighting styles and try to, learn from it. But how do you study that kind of thing? Like, do you analyze people fighting and make notes on the side? What is the process for you? Like, how do you? Because it's almost like it's like making art or drawing or something. It feels very fluid. You just kind of capture these types of things and.
So training with other people helps. Like, there's nothing better than getting beaten up. Like, that's a good learning experience. Yeah, I'm not one of these guys that pretends like you get this like old kind of super grandmaster who's none of that nonsense. Look, everyone can get punched in the face, right? So learning from your mistakes is number one. So sometimes like I may have been like rocking like this way all of a sudden for so many years, and I realize I'm exposing my ribs, and I only find out when I spar someone that's got an incredibly good roundhouse kick. I'm like, whoa, I need to fix something over here. So self-experimentation is very important. And what works for me may not work for you. We're different body sizes, we're different shapes. My arms are different, from yours. My legs are different size than yours. And you have to kind of make it unique to yourself. And this is kind of like Bruce Lee's Jeet Kune Do, Taiyo Jeet Kune Do philosophy. But the problem with philosophy is when you take it to an extreme, especially for a beginner. So like yourself, Rohinda, I assume you haven't done anything really before, yeah?
I've done it once and I got pretty hurt and I was like, I don't know if I should want to come back. So, I think as you said earlier about being face to face with pain, I think, you really need to address that and, push forward.
But to that point, so for a new person, they do need some structure. So, when new people come in, I do teach them the basic jab, cross, low kicks. I teach them the way to stand, where to have their hands, the basic structure. But then after that, as you said, it becomes more of an art as you become experienced. And I may have taught you to jab like this, but then all of a sudden you may turn your hip over into it. You find that's better. And that, like I said, can only be done through personal experimentation because we're all different.
Yeah. One of the issues that I had and one of the reasons why I maybe stopped was I quite like bodybuilding and like strength training. And one of my concerns was about longevity. So I don't know how safe it is to do mixed martial arts every week and get beaten up and, try to,
Good question.
Does it get easier with time? Do you build this kind of different kind of stamina and endurance?
So if you're talking like with anything, when you take it to the absolute extreme competition, like footballers, for an example, there's hardly any footballers over the age of 40, but that's like they're at the very top elite level of what they do. And you're right, with mixed martial artists, and boxers, you see what happens to them in their 50s and 60s when like it's the absolute elite level. They're pushing to the very like boundary of what's possible, right? But if you're training in a safe way, like we're not cavemen over here either, right? We've got some safety equipment on when we're doing drills. It's in a controlled environment. If I'm seeing someone just getting battered and elbowed in the head, I'm not going to allow that, am I? There's reason. The only time you give it that little extra push is going to be, say, in a tournament. But you don't do a tournament every day, so that's like the big test. And then the regular training, it's intense. Longevity wise, in my opinion, there's a balance over here. Okay, so there's actually some system. I'm not going to go through names and stuff like that. I'm not that kind of person. But there's some systems where the impact on the body is almost minimal. Okay, very circular motions and more concentrating on breathing and stretching and this kind of thing, and that's great. And nothing may happen, but what do you get out of that? How sharp can you become with that? And then on the other side, I think there's a balance to be had. A certain intensity of training, a good intensity of training, is not only good for the mind, but good for the body, but also good for the mind. But you need to get something out of it as well. If at the end of all of my classes, my students, are walking out like this with a skip in their step, so I'm like, what did I do? Just like doing weights, right? Your muscles don't get bigger unless you force them. Longevity wise, like I said, you look at people who've been training martial arts in a safe way, they're healthy. And often, if you look at the historical examples, this is going back to traditional martial arts maybe, but these people live a very long period of time. You could argue, some of it is, say, if it comes from Japan, that the lifespan is generally long over there amongst those genetics. But these people do live long and healthy lives, I would say more so than the average population. So the benefits outweigh any risk, in my opinion.
Yeah. So, what is a general training session like at your academy? Because I know you mentioned at the end you like to make sure that everyone is kind of tired, I guess you could say,
Yeah.
and well worked out. What is a general session out like for you?
We start this typical lesson. We start off with a little bit of like mobility work, just moving around, just to warm up the body. Between the joints, you have synovial fluid and warm all this kind of stuff up. You may have been sitting down in a chair in your day job. You may have been out on a building site. It doesn't matter, but we just warm up all of the important joints and ligaments and tendons inside of the body, muscles, and then from there we have a pretty solid warm up. Sometimes the warm up can be 20 minutes. This is a lot of high intensity interval things, so running and then going straight into press ups, then sprawls, then burpees, and then carrying your partner on your back and then squatting with them and then dragging them on the floor, and then loads of partner pushing against your partner, so loads of partner body weight exercises, but very small breaks between them, one after another. There's something called muscle confusion, right? And that's what we aim towards, because say in one sport like say football or running, you're doing the same motion generally speaking, but with martial arts you might be punching upper body, kicking lower body, twisting around using your core. You may go on your back if we're grappling, and then there's pulling and pushing motions. So the muscles can't be trained like in the gym, like curl, like one muscle. They have to be everything at
dynamic.
The same time.
Yeah,
has to be. And then we normally follows up with some sparring, maybe some technical work, and then like a yoga based stretch at the end.
What would you say to a lot of beginners that come in there? What would they generally lack coming into your dojo? Is there a particular thing that you see that they need to work on? Is it stamina, or is it flexibility? Is it strength? Is there one thing that you want to focus on first?
The bedrock, in my opinion, is fitness, because that will enable you to do other things, right? So don't worry so much about strength. That will come. And strength can come through techniques as well. So a lot of the time, the average person can deliver a really good, like, say, punch or a kick, but they just don't know the optimal way to, say, shift the hip or whatever into it. But in the very first instance, I'm talking like the average Joe who's never trained before and going into mixed martial arts. To do like even a round of sparring requires a lot of energy, right? So fitness is probably the most important thing. And then with fitness, you become better at everything, really. You get better at every sport. But yeah, fitness.
Yeah, and is there a certain element of talent so you can see some people that they come in there and they're just so good at it, or does it take time to work up to becoming quite good at it? Does it is there some people that just you can know are just naturally going to be good at this, or with time you realize that actually a couple of years down the line they become really good?
Both. And I've got examples of people that, when their first lesson, if you told me they'd become a black belt, I'd be like, no way. Like this guy. And I shouldn't be saying that, but everyone has preconceptions or misconceptions when they see people, and it's wrong. And then there's some people who are just naturally very good at things. It happens in every sport. Sometimes football, rugby, you just naturally become good at things. Most people who come in, who do well, it's not where they start, but it's the drive that you talked about in the beginning, right? They have a fire. They really want to do this for whatever personal reason that they have, but that pushes them to it. So those people are the ones that do best. You could be like really well built for this, maybe have like a long reach and this kind of stuff. But if your fire isn't there, then after a couple of weeks, when the gimmick's worn over and you've told all your friends and you made your Instagram posts, then you won't carry it on.
Yeah, yeah. And so obviously we're all going through quite a challenging time. It's lockdown number 3 at the moment.
Yeah.
How can people train at the moment? Is there some things that you would recommend them to do? Can they train
We do. Yeah, we do online classes. We do online classes, and for new people, we offer them for free even. So we do online classes Wednesday, 7:30 until 8:30 p.m. They're mainly based on fitness, like I said, like high intensity interval stuff. We do technical inside of there as well, but it's mainly just the fitness element of the martial arts. So you're sweating and you're getting your fitness up, and then learning how to punch and kick basically at the same time. Other things that I would say, right now we're near the end of February, so hopefully the temperature should be getting a little bit better and people are going to be less reluctant to stay indoors. Running is like, it's the easiest exercise that you can do. You don't need like loads of equipment for it or anything like that. Running, jogging. If your fitness is so bad that you can't even jog, just walk, but just do something. Skipping. I like exercises that require minimal equipment. So skipping, for weight loss anyway, is one of the best exercises. I don't know if you know this, but fighters, if they don't meet the weight for a particular fight, let's just say it was 70 kilograms and they're 70.2 kilograms, they give them a skipping rope to start skipping on to lose weight there and then, right?
Yeah.
So skipping is really good. Anything which doesn't require loads of equipment, I'm a fan of. I find it like a natural, easy way of training. You'd be surprised what you can do just with your own body weight even.
Yeah. And how has COVID affected business for you? So obviously, I know you're doing online sessions at the moment, but as the interest increased with time, have you noticed that there's more people interested in mixed martial arts?
I get calls every day of people saying, when are you going to open? And I'm like, man, my guess is as good as yours. I wish I knew. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the interest is there, and I think it's gone up. People have got a little bit tired of just being at home and watching Netflix and the rest of it. So they want to be physical, they want to do stuff, but it's just the platform. So the interest is there, and hopefully when we open back up, like I said, for me it's not a business. It's more just the more people, and I'm happier just because I get to teach them and they get to learn and benefit from it. Yeah. But I think when things do open up, eventually there's going to be loads of people, and not just martial arts. I think every sport, people just want to get out. Even my own students, I speak to them. Not everyone can do the online sessions at home. It's we take it for granted that people have enough space even to like jump around and stuff. Some people don't. Maybe you live on a multi-story building and you can't be jumping and annoying your neighbors. But so not all of them can make it. But I think when it opens up, people are going to be very excited just to see other people and train with them again.
Yeah.
I will be.
And one thing I also wanted to ask you about was, about, I know you talked about the warrior spirit, and are there like badges or belts, and how do you work your way up, and what is the criteria to hit those marks? Are they quite different for each one?
So different. We're going back to the systems. Traditionally, with belts, there's normally a heavy emphasis on, say, forms and katas and memorized routines and things like that. And they have a place. But at Uxbridge Martial Arts Academy, because we're tilted, I see us as the halfway house between, there's a traditional element and we take the respect and discipline and philosophy of that, but we also mix it with the high intensity aspect of modern day mixed martial arts. So we have a belt system, starts off at white. I wouldn't say ends at black, but black belt is the first major milestone. And each belt is awarded on a mixture of fitness, strength, speed, stamina, conditioning, and then technical as well. So as an example, for the white belt, the requirement is, say, 25 press-ups you have to do, a certain number of rounds of sparring, a certain number of squats, a certain number of body weight exercises, but then also a set memorized routine, and then some sparring, right? For black belt, because I'm sure that'll be your next question. So what do I need to do for a black belt? It's 100 press ups in one go, 100 squats in one go, 100 sit ups in one go, X amount of, I think it's like 10 rounds of sparring, and then bare knuckle sparring, and then grappling. So it just compounds on and on and on. The belt system, I see it there as a way. So when I look at my room full of students, it gives them milestones, but also I should know that someone who's been training for 3 years is better, not better, but it has an improved skill than someone who's been training for 2 years, someone been training for 1 year. And I'm very happy to see that, generally speaking, inside of my dojo, the black belts are stronger than the brown belts, are stronger than the orange belts, are stronger than the white belts. So it means that there's some purpose, that we can measure the outcomes of the training. And also, like I said, it gives you milestones to hit. If in every 6 months you have to be in shape for this, you can't slack, you have to, because the grading is not an easy day. It's a few hours long, and it's a big push.
And is everyone working towards that then? Is that what everyone's goal is, to try to go up with those badges or belts, or are there people just want to go in to have a good workout? Do you have different kind of classes for different people that want different things?
And the classes are the same. I have some students that only want to do tournaments. It's like a thing that they find their best elements are through competition. And for those guys, I push them there. But then I don't force someone to do a tournament that doesn't want to, because some people are like, I get enough of the competitive element in the rest of my life. I just want to do this for me, focus on myself, focus on, let's say, my belt thing. Okay, that's fine. So they're competing with themselves in one way, and that's fine. And they go and do that. So different people want, and then some people, they're just there for fitness. And like, this is a great form of fitness, and instead of going to the gym, I can come over here and train with you guys and learn how to defend myself as well. So there's different reasons, and I don't push people either way. I say whatever you want to be good at, whatever you want to focus at, don't be good, be exceptional at that.
Yeah, one thing I have noticed from your pictures and images on your story, shall I say, on Instagram, is there's a lot of diversity in your group. There's so many different people from, there's different genders, different ages. Is that encouraged? You think, sparring with different types of people is a good thing?
100%, man. Like this is something which is really important. I remember, if you look at like the group picture, it's very mixed. You got all different size, shapes, ethnicities, races, genders, and I'm very happy about this. Sometimes people think, oh no, martial arts is only like a boys' sport or anything like that. But we've got so many female students, and they go to so we've only made, this is how strict I've kept this. In 5 or 6 years, we've produced 2 black belts. Okay. I'm not going to talk about other systems, and because there's this thing in martial arts about mock dojos, and you make like a franchise and you pump black belts out and they open schools, and it's like a business model. So I don't do that. But we made 2 black belts, and that's not for a lack of students. We have many students at the academy. Sometimes the average class numbers are like 40, 50 students in there, and on busy days. But one of them was a woman from Germany, and the other one was a young man from Oman. Okay, so one of our first black belts was, so 50% of our black belts are females right now. Okay, so anyone can do it, and you just concentrate and don't give up.
Yeah, I kind of feel like your dojo and your academy is almost like you're doing a service to the community. And do you think about that sometimes? Do you feel like, it's not just your passion, but it's also just to bring people together with a common cause?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I see it as a community. That's the opening line. And we have like a starter pack over there. I see it as a community of people who have the same interest, want to push themselves, want to learn self-defense, want to improve themselves in every way, starting from physical onwards, and that's why I do it as well. It's bringing all those different people together for common cause. I see it as a family. I always in the group chat I refer to it as UMAA family.
That's nice. Yeah. No, it's really cool, and I think I want to be part of that family too.
You're welcome, man.
Yeah, it'd be good to get started and do it. But I think the challenges sometimes is the fear of having to push yourself, and I guess you're in a very vulnerable position, right?
What I would say is do it in the moment. Someone told me this quite interesting thing, and it's just one of the. I have loads of things that just stick in my mind. Someone tells me something and it doesn't go. So it's like living in tomorrow or in the future is anxiety, and living in the past is depression. You can only live in the future, so just be mindful of that, because that's the only thing that you can really change. So anyone that wants to come in and train martial arts, don't think about what if is going to happen. I'm going to leave with like a broken nose. that won't happen. But don't think about there. Just go in and train in that moment, and then before you know it, an hour and 15 minutes, an hour and a half of training has happened. But if you, like, even like me, if you told me that I need to do an hour and a half of training, 90 minutes of training, then I think, that sounds like a long time. But when you just start, you're in the moment, just training. Time is different. You don't need to worry about that.
Yeah, no, it is really, really cool. I just, I don't know. I always find that people that train, they tend to be really grounded. They have this like energy to them. They're just like, they're able to do things, and I think maybe there's also a certain respect as well. Like in the actual dojo, they know your weaknesses. They can see you in your vulnerable state. And I think that's very, very cool. I mean, are there times where you have to tell people just to calm down a little bit, and maybe don't push people to their edges?
Yeah, you'd be surprised. It's not as common as you, because there is like that common respect that you have. Like, there's no one that would be there that's going to just go there to hurt someone. You don't come into the class to hurt someone. You come into the class to improve yourself, right? It does happen once in a blue moon, like when the adrenaline is running through you and you're in that zone, that sometimes you can push a bit too hard. But there's me, there's assistant coaches, other head instructors, just to keep an eye on things, and we can say tone it down. So, I've never seen it in my life where someone's just gone absolutely, just all guns blazing and just destroyed someone. That we wouldn't tolerate that. They have to deal with me first.
So, and so do you have other people as well? So I know you're maybe one of the main instructors. Are there other people that you work with as well, and they help out?
Yeah, so I'm the chief instructor of Shabaaz Ali, and then the head instructor is Amr Arif. He's trained in several systems as well, and in different full contact academies as well. And then we have assistant instructors at the club as well. So chief instructors, head instructors, assistant instructors. There's a good team of people there.
Yeah, and how did you create that structure? Is this have you looked at a different model? Have you got some inspirations of how you want to?
This is sort of the more technical, boring aspects. In the systems that I was learning, this is generally speaking like considered a good structure of doing it. So chief instructor is in charge of everything and normally running most lessons, but obviously we have to do some of the more like admin work as well, like insurances and this kind of stuff, getting students in, telling them what it's about. So sometimes I deal with a lot of the new people because they're the ones that need most of the attention at the beginning, and then your head instructors, they're there if for some reason I'm not there, I'm traveling or something, they can take the lesson by themselves. Head instructor is also qualified to open up their own school tomorrow if they wanted to. And then you have assistant instructors who are just there trying to learn the ropes. I was an assistant instructor for, I don't know, like 4 or 5 years. I was literally, it started off, I was just coming into lessons early, observing how my coach was teaching, looking at body language, looking at the words that they use, learning the drills. Then I started taking some of the warm-up exercises, and then from there you build up and build up and build up, and yeah.
How many coaches have you been through?
This is going to be special for you. I've never counted them. So my first instructor, Mr. Avtar Singh Bra. Then I had my second instructor, Master Jason Wright in Ealing. Then I went to London Shoot Fighters, and this is just like the main things that I've been doing: Kyokushin karate, Simin Kachev, really solid guy. Like, if you want to learn Kyokushin, you're not going to find a better coach in the UK. So yeah, these are like my 3 main coaches, and I'm still currently learning Kyokushin.
Yeah, and how much influence do they have on your style? So obviously they teach you a particular what they know, but do they have a particular personality, and that kind of helps you as well in the way that you fight?
Yeah, so each one of them had a different way of explaining things. My first instructor, I would say, was quite philosophical, quite deep about things. The second one, he was very attention to detail. Like, his techniques were absolutely spot on. He had a master rank. Like, sometimes you see a kick and it just looks so, like, it looks like something very nicely geometrically drawn. Yeah, and then my third main instructor and current instructor, Simeon, he's just intense. Like his fitness is phenomenal. He's built like a tank, and his fighting spirit is like immense. When I spar with him, I feel like I'm a white belt again. Like honestly, it's like, and that's a good feeling.
Do you think it's necessary? Is it good to have multiple coaches? I mean, you talk about mixed martial arts and how you learn from different types of styles. Is that same with the coach as well?
I'm going to go out on a limb over here because I know there's a lot of people. This may sound controversial for people in the martial arts community, because there are some schools of thought who have this very, in my opinion, outdated way of saying, I am your master and you'll only learn from me. This is me, only me, one person speaking, so don't take it as gospel. But in my opinion, if someone is telling you that, just leave, okay? Like if someone is telling you they're the fountain of all knowledge and you can't learn anything else and their way is the ultimate, like, my karate is better than yours, like old kung fu movie type things, then just leave that guy. There's no point. But like I tell so many of my students, like they do Brazilian jiu-jitsu. I've done a bit of BJJ, but it's not my forte. So I even recommend good like BJJ clubs for them to go to, I say learn other things. I get happy when my students come back to me and say, you know what, I started boxing. I'm like, great, that's really good. I want you to teach some of the stuff that you learn over here. Like it's all knowledge, right? I don't see it as, oh no, now they might be leaving my club, so I better keep, hold on to them and tell them that only my system is the way of doing things. So no. Learn as much as you can, do as many classes as you can. There isn't one system above all or anything like that. Knowledge comes from everywhere.
Is there some benefit to the student disciple relationship? Because I mean, why is it something which is quite common in martial arts?
Okay, so this is a deep question, and there's probably loads of people having difference of opinion. I think I'm talking about the modern world now, and things kind of adapt and change to what the setting is right now. So, if the path is uphill, you walk like it's uphill. If it's flat, you walk like it's flat. If there's gravel on it, you change your footing and you're walking to what the path is, right? And I think once upon a time, before the internet, before all of this, and the iPhones and the rest of the things were very isolated. Right? So you'd have one way of doing things, and that knowledge wouldn't leave that area, and this knowledge wouldn't leave that area. And then out of that, I think people started developing almost cultish behavior, like, because things become insular at that point, because you can't go to, like, let me put it this way, think about all the flags of Thailand, Korea, China, Japan, Brazil, Western boxing. I don't even know where that would originate from, England or the US. Like I'm not sure. All these different flags that come together, that would be very difficult to do back in the day. So yeah, rightly so. Maybe that particular area was learning one particular way of doing it because they developed it that way. But now that's not the case. Take the best of that one and the best of that one, and combine it.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
No, it does make sense. I like that model. It's kind of like machine learning, or like artificial intelligence, just taking all this information and absorbing it. But I think we're quite lucky that we live in this kind of society, this modern type society.
Absolutely.
And in London, which is so much diversity. And I think maybe that approach will constantly be evolving and changing. And it's
do you know where martial arts originally started from?
No.
It's a question people. So there's different things, but people always get this question wrong. It actually started from India. So there was a form of wrestling, and then they went and took it to China, and then there was mixed with some Buddhism and stretching and things like that. But so that just shows the journey of where this comes from. People find it's quite fascinating. So to get to where we are now, it's gone from there all over the world and back again. So
yeah, and do you think there's a best age to start? Because I think that's another people are concerned. I'm too old now to start this. Do you think that there is a good age to start, or you can do it anytime? Honestly,
it's a tricky one. No. I'm thinking of the opposite side. Whether you're too young, because Uxbridge Martial Arts Academy, we typically teach age of 12 and above. We make some exceptions for like an 11-year-old, maybe a 10-year-old who's really big and really motivated. But it's because of the way that we train. Otherwise, you have to have a separate children's class, right? So typically, like if you're 12, you're going to be training with someone who's up to the age of 40, 50 years old, and then everything in between. So you have to be at a certain strength fitness level. I don't think there's anything wrong with starting earlier. And I'm probably I might get some people who disagree. There's some clubs, not all clubs, where you see students coming in at the age of 3, 4, 5, and it's kind of like daycare with a little bit of punching in the air. There's an argument to be had that's you're getting them into the swing of things, but is it really martial arts? What are they really absorbing? I don't know, like it probably works out to like £5 to £6 an hour, cheaper than daycare. Put them over there. Some parents will do that. I start at the age of 12 and above because that's when I think they're ready for it over here and over here, right? Um, I started at 11, 12, but maybe I'm just only explaining my story. I'm sure there's there are very good clubs out there as well who have like a team of junior black belts, who are like 8, 9, 10 years old, and they're good. But I think to combine both is very difficult. You can't have 6 and 7 year olds and 16-year-olds in the same class. They want different things. You have to talk to them differently. You have to train them differently.
Yeah. So, you've been doing this for a while now, and, obviously you're very passionate. I can see the passion, and it's really, really cool. It's very motivating. Like, what is your long-term aspirations? Do you want to just keep growing and developing and teaching others?
Yeah, it's fun. No one's ever asked me that question, so you've kind of caught me off guard. Like, this is so. I'm just thinking off the cuff. With my day job, I'm very happy that I don't have to call this a job. Okay, no, there's nothing wrong with it. There's a lot of people that do this, and this is their like everything. But then there's an element of it becoming like your business, and then you start treating it like a business, and then things start getting confounded. Right now, the club has been growing like crazy. I remember when I first started, I never had an ambition to have like 50 students. It was just like a few of my mates and me training, and we rented a hall in a local gym, and then people started coming, and I was like, oh, okay, this is all right. They're paying for the rent as well, and they're learning something. And then I was getting more students. I'm like, wow, I can actually pass this on to so many other people. So right now, I'll just see how it organically grows. But organic growth has been very fast, and we got to the stage where just before lockdown, we were at basically almost maximum capacities. The next step would be, and I don't push my students in any way to do this, but if they open clubs of their own and spread the same thing. But I don't like marketing like a product. If you get what I'm saying, getting away from the traditional things. You don't have to block like this or move like this or any. You just teach it. You bring together a community of people with a common interest, and that's martial arts over here.
Yeah,
and the rest of it is literally like other people taking this up who've trained under me. But that's in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm surprised. What has brought on this new fascination or this new newfound interest in martial arts? Why is there so much interest now? Do you think more than ever, people feel the need to kind of have that kind of education?
A couple of things. First, I think the media has there's been a lot of emphasis put on this. There's movies like I think Never Back Down. I've never even seen these, but like Never Back Down, the new Karate Kid series, the Karate Kid movie with Will Smith's son. So Cobra Kai, sorry, that's what it was. So there's a lot of emphasis on that, and then even like you see people walking around with like Tapao, Hayabusa, these MMA brands, fashion. So it's become fashion. It's in the music as well. And also, so the media has put emphasis on it as well, which has been good. And then the other thing, I think this is a big I think, but I think people want something as well that's going to push them and push them really hard. Going back to what that investment banker said about you're never going to find something where truth is so black and white, and where winning and losing is just so obvious. All your weaknesses are exposed, and you can only develop strengths now.
Yeah, it's kind of like going back to what you were saying about being face to face with pain. I think that's such a great way to put it. Just like that experience of being, someone.
Because we don't do that really anymore in civilized society.
Yeah,
which is a good thing. But if we've been doing it for so long in a certain way, then when you are deprived of that, then there's some aspect which needs to be fulfilled. Maybe this is me talking a bit crazy now, but
well, maybe I think you might be there. I think maybe it's a primal need to actually like experience that kind of attack and defense on a physical level, and that aids your life, in everything.
What I find really sad is this is a form of sadness when. Where you meet someone and you're like, you don't know what you're capable of or what your body was capable of. I think it was a famous Greek philosopher. He said something about the flower of your never seeing the flower of your youth. Socrates. One of those Greek philosophers really well built. Yeah, one of them. And he goes, it's such a sad thing that you never see the flower of your own youth or your own strength, and you never knew how hard you could hit. You never knew how fast you could run. You never knew how high you could jump. This is your body is capable of all of these things, but you just never tested it and you never used it. It's like having a Ferrari and never, bringing it on the track. You never know what it's capable of.
Yeah, I really like that. It's a good way to think about it. I mean, you said your first coach was, focused on the spiritual side of things. So what do you mean by that exactly? Like, what did he do differently compared to your other coaches?
A lot of it was just the way he'd say things and the kind of things that he would put, like an emphasis on how you treat people, how you talk to people, emotional intelligence. I learned a lot from him. It was so because I was quite young when I joined, and I had this as like most like young guys. It's like if someone says something to you and you back down, like you're a coward, right? Like, if someone says something to you in school, you immediately have to say something back or punch them in the face, and then you're the winner. That's like the programming that I had, like most like young guys, right? But he showed me this other thing that where just because someone is, speaking rude to you or acting rude to you, to say no and to put the person down that way is actually you being smarter than them, and you bringing the outcome to a non-violent end. And then maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, maybe not next year, but one day, sometime in their life, maybe they'll reflect on that and something will click in their mind. That way, I met this guy, and the way that they dealt with me was with fair respect and justice, and it was a nicer way of doing things than I'm doing right now. And he taught me that you don't have to beat people down to teach them, and you don't become less of a person or less of a guy or less of a man just because someone says something to you and you walk away.
Yeah,
I will argue this though: if you're scared, then there's a problem, because you can't lose to your fear. So if you're scared and you're running away, then you're a coward. So I'll put that with a caveat there, yeah? But if you're calm and collected and inside, you've got nothing to lose, okay? And you just walk away from that situation, then you've done something which is higher than, like, this is like higher human function, really.
Do you have to sometimes give that advice to young people?
All the time.
Yeah,
especially
guys going through bullying
like,
and stuff like that, and you have to help them out. And
bullying, yeah. Unfortunately, you do get kids that are bullied, and that is why they come into the class as well. So there's two things. There's one, like testosterone-filled young, usually guys. I'm generalizing, but it's usually guys. And you need to kind of give them an avenue to say, right, how about instead of putting that in an aggressive manner, you develop yourself, put the energy somewhere else. And then when you realize how good you can actually be and you've improved as a person, you don't need to go around proving yourself by knocking people out, because you can do it. You do it twice a week in a controlled environment with guys twice your size. So and also, but sometimes these same people, you need to fix them. You need to give them a bit of this. Like, there's nothing like, honestly, man, like sometimes people come in with an ego, like a picture of themselves, and then you just have to beat it out of them, and it's all nice and legal when it's in a class environment. Yeah. Okay, you might want to take that out. I don't know, I'm joking. I'm messing around. Keep it. But the other side. So the unfortunate side is when someone, and the deal, like they're getting bullied and it's not nice, and they want to learn something to defend themselves. So my first port is always say, get your parents involved, get the school involved. Diplomacy, right? Just like in anything in life, try getting a diplomatic solution out of this. That is port number one. Speak to their parents. But obviously life is life, and sometimes these avenues get to an end and no positive thing comes out. Then you have this as a secondary option. And even then, when I'm training them, I don't say, right, we're going to picture you knocking out the bully or anything like that. You're developing yourself and you're improving. Because often the reason the bully picks on someone, 9 times out of 10, easy target. They're standing like this, okay? Or like, their posture, their body language, the way they're presenting themselves is weak. Before I teach to punch and kick, I forgot to mention this, the first thing is how to stand. Like if you're waiting for a bus, just your composition, the way your toes and heels are facing, the way your chest and your chin is coordinated between itself. That's the most important thing to not getting bullied. And then after that, we build that up with strength. And when you start improving with strength, then the problems go away very, very quickly. But if I get to the crux of it, if the question is, when do you knock out a bully? It's a beautiful thing to do. Don't get me wrong, yeah. But first diplomacy. After diplomacy, then you're improving yourself and you're like the way that you stand and you posturize yourself. But then some would say you never need to do this. I strongly disagree. If violence is continuing and you're the victim of a brutality, to quote Malcolm X, then it's criminal to tell that person that they can't defend themselves. You have a right and an obligation and a duty to defend yourself, because the next person that person may pick on will be someone who's in a worse position than you are. So at that point, it's compulsory. to
Yeah,
defend yourself
yeah. And do you think
and
that
do it properly.
do you think you have this ability now to like read people through their body language? That's actually great. Is that a spiritual thing too as well? Because somehow it's like an energy flow. You can see, if they have a good balance in their body, they're more kind of balanced overall. Do you think
Yeah.
about that a lot, or?
A lot of, when it comes to energy, I say stuff because there's a lot of, it gets a bit airy fairy, but what I would say is removing is important. We live in a world with so much going in, so remove everything which is unnecessary. At the beginning of class, we sit down in a position like this. You're breathing in, you're breathing out, you're focusing on here and now. My students, if they hear this, they'll say I sound like a broken record. I say forget about yesterday, tomorrow, success or failure, school or home. You're here now. Remove everything else. And then when you have that ability to be there in the moment now, I think people often say that person seems very spiritual, very well grounded when they can just be there. Because if I'm talking to you, I'm not thinking about my dinner. Okay, that's disrespectful and rude to you. If I'm talking to you, I'm in this moment. When I talk to someone else, I give them my respect by being in that moment with them. And there's some shared human connection inside of that. But when I'm talking to you and I'm thinking about this and looking at my watch, and this is someone you can immediately see that there's something going wrong in their head, and they're not a grounded or a spiritual person, as you said.
It's a very beautiful way of looking at it, and so you do have there's a meditation part to your sessions as well, then, right? And they sit and they breathe together.
Silent sitting in the beginning in a position called Cesar, and then in the end, sometimes the lesson runs out of time, but sometimes it's just breathing in through your nose, out through your nose, and just focusing there in the moment. It feels really good once your body is really. They say once the body's tired, the mind becomes strong. So when you're completely smashed by the end of it, and you're just breathing there in the zone, everything just falls into its own place, and you just come out of it just calm and placid. I think it's something that people need to do more. Different people, different cultures give it different words. I don't like overly tangibilizing it. They call it meditation or silent sitting or introspection. It doesn't matter if you're just sitting by yourself, contemplating in your own self. Just be there with yourself. Put the phone away, put everything else away, personal or otherwise, and just be there, and you'll find something. You'll find something amazing.
Yeah, I just realized I looked at the time. I feel like I can talk to you for hours, honestly. Thank you.
Come to the class. We'll talk, and we'll fight, and we'll punch and kick.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna sign up. I think I will definitely come. But I think what you're doing for the community is incredible, and yeah, I support you 100% in your goals as well. But yeah, you're always welcome to come back on the RoRoShow. And also, if you were to have, is there any links that you want to send people to if they want to kind of go connect with you?
Yeah. So my plug now, right?
This is the plug. Yeah.
In Instagram, we operate mainly through Instagram and Facebook. I've been told by my nieces and nephews that Facebook is now for old people. So Instagram, yeah. Uxbridge Martial Arts Academy, and you'll find us over there. Follow us, and you can see the kind of stuff that we're doing. And then hopefully anyone's guess is as good as anyone else's, really. But if we can, April, maybe May time, depending on what, I think Boris is going to have to say something come Monday. So
yeah,
we can see then. But as soon as we're allowed to legally open, we're gonna, and then it's safe to do so, we're gonna be open and running classes back and just be on fire again, man. I can't wait to have that energy and all those people in the room at the same time. Seriously.
Yeah. And in terms of your Zoom classes, they contact you through your Instagram as well for that as well?
They're free to join. Just send me a DM, a direct message on there, and I'll send you the Zoom link. Wednesdays, 7:30 for the time being. It's an hour session. Mm-hmm. And so don't worry if you haven't done anything before. Just give it a go. You never know what come out of it. Okay?
Yeah, exactly.
You never know.
Try new things. It's always good to try new things. But yeah, thank you so much for joining and for your time. And again, you're always welcome to come back on because I can fire many more questions at you. To you.
It was my pleasure and it was my honor. Thank you for having me here.
Take care. Thank you so much.
All right, man. Take it easy. Bye-bye.
Bye.